Yeah, let that sit for a second, because if that is true, then something about Genshin changed, and not in the way they announced it. The question I want you to hold on to for this entire video is this. What happens to every region you missed a 5-star in? We are going to answer that. Genshin Impact used to have a simple deal. You pull characters. You get stronger. You clear content. Maybe you care about meta. Maybe you don't. But the base game was accessible to everyone. New player, returning player, F2P, didn't matter. You could play. Then Natlan happened. Natlan introduced Night Soul, a new movement mechanic tied to Natlan characters specifically. Skipped the Natlan 5 stars? You got around slower. It was annoying, but you could still play. Then Norcry happened, and Norcry did not introduce an inconvenience. Norcry introduced a wall. Lunar Reactions, Lunar Bloom, Lunar Charge, Lunar Crystallize, new reactions, significantly more damage, built into the core of how Nod-Krai functions. And here is the part that matters. You cannot trigger them without a Nod-Krai unit. Not it is harder without them. Not you are underperforming. You cannot trigger them. Inefa enables Lunar Charge. Llama enables Lunar Bloom. Zabai enables Lunar Crystallize. No 5-star. No reaction. Full stop. So here is what that actually means in practice. The endgame in Nod-Krai is built around lunar damage, the Spiral Abyss equivalent for Nod-Krai, tuned around teams that can trigger lunar reactions. World quests in Nod-Krai. Some require lunar reactions to complete mechanics. Exploration in Nod-Krai. Specific puzzles and traversal mechanics gated behind characters that can trigger lunar. And I want you to notice what that list just covered. Endgame content. Story quests. Exploration. That is not the hard mode. That is the game. This is not a difficulty spike. This is a door. And the key costs wishes. And that is not even the worst part. Endgame. Story. Exploration. All of them gated behind the same thing. Now here is where I want to zoom out for a second, because some of you are going to say, this is just how Genshin works. New region. New mechanics. Buy in or fall behind. And I get why you would say that. I really do. But that argument assumes what got added is optional. Natlan's Night Soul was annoying to skip. You moved slower. You felt it. But you could still explore. You could still quest. You could still play. Nod-Krai is not that. Nod-Krai is not you are slower without the characters. Nod-Krai is certain parts of this region do not function without the characters. And now Sandrone is coming in version 6.7. New 5-star. New region. New reaction system called Stellar Conduct. Stellar Conduct is to Snezhnaya what Lunar Reactions were to Nod-Krai. A brand new reaction system, locked behind a 5-star. And right now, only Sandrone can generate the field that triggers it. Natlan, Nod-Krai, Snezhnaya. 3 regions. 3 locked systems. Each one tighter than the last. This is not a coincidence. Because it gets worse. A lot worse. The community clocked this the moment Nod-Krai launched. This post hit the front page of the Genshin subreddit in about 6 hours. Read the comments. And what is interesting is the split. Because it is not the usual argument. It is not gotcha bad. It is not HoYo greed. People have been saying that since 2020. Because they are not complaining about the damage numbers. They are complaining that the region does not work for them. That is a different complaint. Complaining that a character is strong is a meta complaint. Complaining that a region is locked is a design complaint. And then there is this. Someone actually sat down and calculated what it costs in real money to get guaranteed 5-star coverage across the full Nod-Krai roster. Just to play the game. Not to be top of the leaderboard. Not to clear the hardest floor. To access the content that is already there. And the community knows it. They have known it since 6.0 dropped. But knowing it and being able to prove it are 2 different things. So let me show you the proof. That is Zeno. She is the free 4-star character HoYoverse gave every player during the 6.0 Archon Quest. The main story quest. For the new region. That every player runs. Now look at her kit. She cannot trigger lunar reactions. HoYoverse wrote this character into their own story, handed her to you for free, during the quest that introduces the region she lives in, and then built her kit so she cannot interact with the entire combat system of the region she lives in. That was not an oversight. You do not accidentally design a free story character who is mechanically incompatible with the region's core system. You design her that way because you want every player who runs the Archon Quest to feel exactly one thing when they finish it. The gap between what they have and what they would need to buy. That is the product. Not the character. Not the reaction system. The feeling of being locked out. That is what they are selling. Okay, I want to be fair here. Because the counterargument is not stupid. Genshin Impact is a gacha game. Pulling characters is the entire business model. Always has been. Every live service game gates content behind investment, time or money, Pick one. World of Warcraft gates its best gear behind raids. Destiny gates its best weapons behind seasonal content. Every game does this. And if all Hoyo was doing was making Nod-Krai characters strong, really strong, unfairly strong, that would be a power creep argument. A valid one, but a familiar one. And honestly, for most of Genshin's history, F2P players could build competitive teams from older characters. Spiral Abyss was clearable without the newest 5 stars. That is a real track record. The counter-argument has weight. But here is the thing they are not telling you. The argument that gacha games gate content assumes the gated content is the endgame. Hard floors. Optimization mode. Stuff casual players never see. That has always been the deal. Spend more, clear faster, hit higher numbers. Fine, but Nod-Krai is not gating the endgame. It is gating exploration. It is gating story quests. It is gating the parts of the game that are supposed to be for everyone. When Destiny locks its best exotic behind a raid, your free character can still run strikes, explore the map, and finish the campaign. When Nod-Krai locks its mechanics behind 5 stars, the free character they gave you in the campaign cannot interact with the campaign region. Those are not the same thing. One is a reward structure. The other is a participation fee. And the comparison to older Genshin regions makes it worse, not better. Because in Sumeru, in Inazuma, in Mondstadt, you did not need specific characters to access the region. You needed them to be optimal in the region. That is the line. Optimal versus accessible. Hoyo just moved the line. So, back to the question I planted at the start. What happens to every region you missed a 5-star in? The answer is, you have a region you cannot fully play. Not a region you are weaker in. Not a region where you clear slower. A region with content you can look at, but not touch. And that is now the product. For 3 regions in a row, Natlan, Nod-Krai, Snezhnaya, Hoyo has designed a system where playing the game fully requires buying in. And each version has been tighter than the last. Natlan gave you slower movement. Annoying. Nod-Krai gave you a locked reaction system with no free entry point. Worse. Snezhnaya is shaping up to do the same thing. Pattern locked. And when Snezhnaya ships, and the version after that ships, and the one after that, the question is not whether Hoyo is going to keep doing this. They are. The question is what you think you are paying for. Because Genshin used to sell you power. New character. Bigger numbers. Stronger account. That was the deal. What Hoyo is selling now is access. Not stronger. Not faster. Just in. And the thing about selling access is, it does not stop. Every new region is a new door. Every new door needs a new key. And the keys only come from the banner. This is not a Genshin problem anymore. This is a blueprint. And if it works here, and right now it is working, every live service game is watching. So the next time a patch drops and they hand you a free character in the story, check her kit. Anyways, click the video on screen right now because YouTube thinks you'll enjoy it. And I'll see you all over there. Subscribe.